Good morning and welcome to the Public Service Commission of South Carolina. We are here this morning for some interviews with regard to docket number 2022-104E. That docket pertains to the PSC's request for a proposal of consultants and experts related to the 2022 competitive procurement of renewable energy proceedings to be filed by the South Carolina Public Service Authority, also known as Santee Cooper, in compliance with the requirements of South Carolina Code annotated section 58-31-27, 227. And this is solicitation number 5400023177. Let's take a roll call of commissioners to see who we have present for this morning's interview. Present in the hearing room, we have Commissioner Justin Williams, Commissioner Thomas, and Chair Belser. With us virtually, we have Commissioner Irvin, Commissioner Carolee Williams, and Commissioner Caston. Let's see. Anything else we need to do? I think we're good to go now. And the first interview we have is with Siemens Industry Incorporated. Mailing address in Fairfax, Virginia, and home office in Schenectady, New York. And who do we, let's see, I believe we have Mr. Gohill, is that correct?
That's right.
And Mr. Matos?
Yes, that's me.
Is it Matos or Matos?
Matos.
Matos, thank you. And we will, if you would introduce your full names for the court reporter, please.
Yeah, I'll go first. My full name is Amit Jamarari Gohir.
And my name is Christopher Andreas Matos.
Thank you. And I'm going to need y'all to speak up for us, please, so the court reporter can record what you're saying. And I believe you have we just got your presentation submitted, and or it's just been sent around. But we'll recognize you to begin and give us your presentation if you would. And commissioners may have questions of you during or after your presentations, if that's okay.
Yes, that should be fine. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, so the way we have structured our responses were, we have a very short presentation. This was essentially to introduce the team and present some qualifications and value propositions of Siemens PTI. And then we had the commission staff had provided a list of questions. So we have written responses to the extensive questionnaire. Depending on the format, we can start off with the presentation. It'll maybe take 5-10 minutes, and then we can go through, in detail some of the questions that were posed.
I think that would be a good way to start.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So I can start off with the presentation, and I can share my screen if that's okay, if that's possible, so that all of us can see the presentation, and then we can go into the question and answer round after that.
If you share your screen, will we still be able to see you?
I think so. Obviously the real estate of the screen gets
It's a little smaller, but if you'll go ahead and try it, the court reporter needs to be able to see you as you're talking.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, if that's a problem, then we can I don't have to share anything because you have the copy and we can just go page by page. But let me see if that it's working out.
That looks like that's going to work when the videos get rearranged. There we go.
Okay. Yeah, so if this is working, then we can go ahead and get started then. This, as I said, this is a short presentation. Hopefully it'll take no more than 5-10 minutes. In this presentation, we'll do, quick introductions. I'll introduce myself, and I'll also allow Mr. Chris Matos to introduce himself. And then, I'm going to quickly talk about Siemens PTI as an organization, and then go over some of the relevant qualifications that are relevant to this scope of work, the competitive procurement of renewable energy for the state of South Carolina. And then, we will sort of summarize our value proposition, and then we can go into the more detailed question and answer round. So yeah, so quickly, I'll introduce myself first. So I'm Amit Gohil. I am one of the directors in the Siemens Power Technologies International, PTI for short. It's a global group, and I'll talk about that in a minute here. And my role in the function is I lead a consulting practice within Siemens PTI. It's called Portfolio Optimization. I've been with Siemens for about 6.5 years. I'm based out of the Fairfax, Virginia office. And I have about more than 20 years of experience in the energy industry, primarily in the power and natural gas sector. And the types of work that I get involved with, it includes procurement of energy broadly, but specifically renewable energy. So I have a lot of experience in the commercial power purchase agreements, PPA space. So in terms of selecting the right developers, right projects, valuing them, evaluating them, and then helping our clients add renewable energy to their supply portfolios. And in terms of this particular engagement, if we were to be awarded this engagement, my role would be as a commercial advisor to the project team. So with that, I'll let Chris Matos also introduce himself.
Thanks, Amit. As Amit said, my name is Christopher Matos. I've been with Siemens since January. I'm relatively new to the team, but I've been in the power sector for about 8 years. A lot of my background is in
Mr. Matos, may I ask you to speak up a little bit? We're having a little difficulty hearing you.
Yeah. All right, my voice is a little. We had a wedding this weekend, so there was a bit of celebration. It's a little shot. I've been in the utility sector for about 8 years, and a lot of my work is in competitive renewable development and power contracts. So I'm quite familiar with the process from the other side, usually as the developer, working with entities and agencies on procuring their renewable energy requirements. At Siemens, I also help with our clients on long-term decarbonization strategy and portfolios in environmental markets.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Chris. So with that, I'm going to continue on with the presentation. So I'll talk a little bit about Siemens PTI as a...
Mr. Gohill, I apologize for interrupting you, but we are seeing a box that says rearrange videos in the stage. I think that's coming from your end. Can you click that little box off? It's over your slide presentation.
This is Commissioner Caston, and I clicked on just dismiss or whatever, and it went off of mine. So it may be something we have to do individually. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's a feature of WebEx. It's allowing you to rearrange what you would like prioritized.
Yeah, I don't think I can do anything here on my end. At least it does. I don't see any controls or any buttons that I can.
Well, I'm technology challenged, so anyway, that's fine. There it goes. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no problem. That's completely fine. So I will talk about Siemens PTI as a group, and what we do. So as you can see here, the Siemens PTI is one of the business units within the broad Siemens organization. Siemens, as you know, is a large technology and hardware and software company. It's a global company, but within this broader Siemens organization, Siemens PTI is a consulting. It's primarily a consulting group, but we do have some software that is helped in this whole PSS portfolio, that's our software offering, and our software, the PSSC suite, essentially is used for doing planning studies, especially for transmission and distribution planning. But in addition to the software, we have a consulting group, and it's a global consulting group, and I'll talk about that in a minute here. And there are two parts to it. There is the energy business advisory part of the group that does a lot of generation, so resource planning, transaction advisory, market analysis, portfolio optimization, especially as load serving entities and cities and states look to decarbonize the power grid. We do a lot of generation, transmission, distribution planning, and help with this decarbonization roadmaps. And I spent, as I said earlier, a lot of time in the procurement of helping our load serving entities as well as state commissions to procure the energy broadly, but especially renewable energy, like solar, wind, solar plus storage, those kinds of resources, and bring them into their supply portfolio. We also have this sister group, we call it Power Systems Consulting, and they are the technical group. They are the technical brains, in our group, and they do a lot of very technical engineering-based power systems consulting, right? And they get involved with interconnection studies, injection studies, especially with transmission and the transmission grid, to make sure that as the renewables are integrated into the grid. So all the technical know-how that's needed to be able to integrate those, we do those. Power system consulting does a lot of those reliability studies, and also it goes to all the way to the distribution grid, where a lot of distributed energy resources are coming online behind the meter, and we do a lot of hosting analysis, at the feeder level in the distribution network, to be able to integrate those DER into the grid. That's a little bit about the Siemens PTI as a group. As you can see here, Siemens PTI is a global organization. We are headquartered in Germany, but we operate across the world. We have more than 20 offices worldwide, more than 200 consultants worldwide, and and any given year we are doing more than 1,000 projects. But particularly in the U.S., and especially for this particular engagement, our consultants that will, if you're awarded, will work on this engagement, are based in the Fairfax office. They are based in the Houston office. Mr. Chris Matos, who's the project manager, he's based out of Austin, but he's affiliated to the Houston office. We also have an office in South Carolina, Columbus, and they do a lot of renewable energy procurement, especially renewable energy. So between these offices, we will be able to support this particular scope of work, and the commission and the commission staff. So with that, I'll talk a little bit about our qualifications, which are especially relevant to this scope of work. So the state of South Carolina is looking to incorporate renewable energy. I believe it's about more than 1,000 megawatts of solar, and maybe even some storage, and into those kinds of resources into the supply portfolio. And this is per the IRP, the 2021 IRP that was put forth. And we are very well placed to help the state of South Carolina with this scope of work. So just as a sampling, we worked with a lot of entities, as I said, load serving entities, as well as the state and municipals, to procure energy. But specifically, we worked with the Delaware Public Service Commission, the Pennsylvania PUC, and for these two, what we've done, or actually we are currently we are engaged by them, and what we do is we are the market monitor to procure supply for for utilities that are in their jurisdictions, right? And these are providers of last resort. So all the load that doesn't sign up with any competitive providers, the utilities procure energy, and this could be full requirements contract. So this includes energy capacity, ancillary services, even the renewable energy credits that make up the supply. And what our role is to act as an independent market monitor. So we monitor the entire auction process from beginning to end, right? From all the pre-bid activities where we are monitoring the dissemination of information. We even produce a pre-bid report to ensure that before the auction is held, we provide a sort of a range of expected prices or expected bids to expect. So this way, when the bids do come in, at least we know that they are sort of in line with market. And then we monitor the auction process on the day of the bids, and then help evaluate the bids. And then we provide lots of reports along the whole timeline, right? So this could be a pre-bid report when we inform the commission of the market conditions and what to expect, right, in terms of the price range. And then we also write a report once once the auction concludes, how the auction went, how many suppliers participated, what did the bids look like, how many bids were submitted, and we provide a lot of information about the entire auction process to so that we to be transparent about the process, so everyone can see that the whole auction process was competitive. We got a lot of supplier interest, and the entire process was conducted according to the rules and regulations that were stipulated by those commissions. And the entire process was fair, right? So, and we write a report, and that is submitted to the PSC or the POC in question, and then they approve, and then that concludes the entire auction process. And similarly, we are currently engaged by the state of Connecticut's Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, and they have asked us to help them fulfill their goals of including 1,000 megawatts of energy storage. So these could be batteries, but it could be other kinds of energy storage. And they have certain objectives. So they want to be able to support the integration of renewables into the state of Connecticut's grid. They also want to retire fossil power plants, and they want to support the addition of large public loads, right? These could be charging stations. So we are helping them currently figure out, what is the best location of these energy storage resources that will enable the state to fulfill all those objectives. What should be the size of those individual resources? So there's this whole analysis that we do, and then after the initial analysis, they will conduct an RFP for the bids, and then we will evaluate all those bids to help the state select the best possible combination of resources that will help them achieve those objectives. We've also been engaged with NYSERDA for quite some time now, and we've helped them create these decarbonization roadmaps for the state of New York. Needless to say, we have a lot of experience in the competitive procurement space, and especially working with state regulators, and some of the state regulators you see here on the screen here. So as I said, we also have a lot of integrated resource planning experience. That's one of our key or flagship offerings is to work on integrated resource planning studies. And as part of the IRP, we get engaged with the entire stakeholder process, so that involves a lot of regulatory proceedings. So we have experience at providing written and in-person testimony for the Puerto Rico Energy Bureau in support of the 2019 IRP. We did similar testimony for the Indiana Utilities Regulatory Commission in support of Centerpoint, Indiana South, to again in support of the IRP that had some questions about the generation additions that were recommended as part of the study. And we also recently concluded the testimony on behalf of AEP's India Michigan subsidiary. So so this hopefully gives an idea of our of the work that we've done. for state commissions, especially with renewable energy procurement and integrated resource planning. So I'm going to conclude our presentation with this slide. So this hopefully the previous slide gave you an idea of a very specific, relevant experience that we have that will support the scope of work, the CPRE scope of work for the state of South Carolina. But just to conclude, our consultants in the U.S. have a lot of energy market expertise, right? And this is across all the organized markets, right? So all the 7 ISOs, RTOs, but also all those regions where you don't have an ISO, like the southeast, where which is part of which South Carolina is part of. So we have a lot of modeling experience. We use production cost models, and we have transmission models of the Eastern Interconnect that includes these balancing authorities in the CERC region. That is for South Carolina especially, and also the neighboring CERC region. We have a lot of the energy market expertise. We have extensive procurement experience that I just went over. So in addition to working with states, cities and state commissions, we also work with industrials, and we do a lot of, we help them procure energy and renewable energy. We've also done that for Siemens itself. The Siemens Corp also has a decarbonization goal, and we just, we help them a year ago or so identify, virtual power, power purchase agreements, VPPAs, that will satisfy their decarbonization goal. We have a lot of resource planning experience, and all the modeling and system planning expertise that go with it. And we have a deep bench of experts, right? So we as you saw, we work in very different disciplines across the energy spectrum, and we can call upon different parts of the Siemens organization for that expertise. And our consulting service within Siemens, we are an independent organization, right? So we maintain the confidentiality within the broader Siemens organization and make sure that we have the Chinese walls set up so that the sharing of information is limited and controlled. And our sole objective is to help our client, right? So in this case, we are working for the PSC for the state of South Carolina, and your goals and your objectives are our primary responsibility. And we do have commercial expertise, right? Not only the evaluation of the contracts that might result from the RFP, but also if there's need for any structuring of the PPA and negotiations, we are happy to do that. We've done that for other clients, and we are happy to do that for the state of South Carolina. So that sort of concludes my presentation, and at this point, I'm happy to take any questions, or we can go on to the more the detailed question Q&A that were given to us.
Thank you, Mr. Gohill. Let me just, commissioners, are there any questions at this point? And
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Thomas?
Thank you. I just had one question. I think I heard you say that you had an office in Columbia, South Carolina. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is right. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's all.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Commissioner Caston?
Yes, to follow up on Commissioner Thomas's question.
Just hold on.
What office is that? Let me come on.
Commissioner Caston, could you hold on just a second? We're having a little issue. Mr. Gohill, would you stop sharing your screen for the moment? Thank you. Commissioner Caston, go ahead.
The office in Columbia, you said Columbia, correct?
Yes.
What type office is that?
So it's It's a sister group. It's called SEM, Sustainability Energy Management Solutions. But they also that office also works a lot with energy procurement, and and we have their consultants are also available to us to work on this particular engagement.
Okay, thank you. All I needed.
Commissioners, anything further at this point? You'll have another opportunity.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Carolee Williams.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for your presentations. I had one question. And Mr. Gohill, when you were speaking of the state of South Carolina, in terms of this CPRE project, were you referring to what we colloquially call Santee Cooper and officially is the South Carolina Power Authority, as opposed to the state of South Carolina?
Yes, no, yes. I was broadly referring to that, but yeah, specifically to Santee Cooper, because my understanding is that Santee Cooper will be the entity that will conduct the entire CPRE process, and will be working with them, especially on this whole process. But again, my understanding is that we will be on an oversight role, so I guess we would report to the commissioner and the commission staff that we'll be working with Santee Cooper in this whole process.
I appreciate the clarification. It gets a little bit confusing because we, of course, also work for the state of South Carolina, but I appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. Commissioner Gohill, in response to your questions just now, or your response to Commissioner Williams' questions, this is where Santee Cooper has got to file a CPRE program with this commission seeking approval of a CPRE program. And we are looking for a consultant to help us evaluate that program. This is not the role of administrator or anything like that of the actual program. This is to help us evaluate the CPRE. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, so based on the initial RFP and our response, our understanding is that we will help Santee Cooper with the whole CPRE program to set it up. But if the execution of the program is not part of the scope, then we may have misread that, and we thought that the execution portion is also part of the scope, so we were including both. But even to execute, before we execute, we need to make sure that all the right processes and tasks are in place, right, and to make sure that those are included in the program that gets approved, right, and then the program is executed. So I think from that perspective, we are very well qualified to help design and develop the program and help it to make sure that it has all the right ingredients to make sure that it will be able to fulfill the objectives of Santee Cooper and the commission.
And I don't know that the consultant will help design the program. The consultant will advise the commission as to whether or not the program meets the requirements of a good, robust, workable CPRE program. But I don't know if Santee Cooper's proposal will include an independent administrator or third party to oversee things. That is not part of this RFP. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing is we have some very strict ex parte procedures here in South Carolina, and anything that any communications between the consultant that we choose and Santee Cooper pretty much have to be in writing through discovery responses, because the consultant is held, our consultant is held to the same standard for ex parte communications as commissioners and commission staff are. So it's not that our consultant would be able to go sit down and meet with Santee Cooper to discuss things. It would all have to be done pretty much in writing and discovery request.
Mm-hmm.
So just need for you to be aware of that. That's why one of the questions in the questions that you have responded to indicates or ask about any history or experience in formulating and propounding discovery interrogatory request. So
Yes, we have, we work with our clients, and that does, as I said, it does include the state commissions, and we are used to working with confidentiality um, requirements, and and limited communications. So, so the short answer is yes, we are prepared to work with the commission and adhere to all the requirements, communication, ex parte communication requirements. And as you said, if it is limited to written communications with Santee Cooper, that's completely fine with us. Um, and we, as I said, we have been part of proceedings in the past for other state regulators that have similar sort of requirements in terms of interacting with various stakeholders. There could be multiple stakeholders. In this case, it's Santee Cooper, but it could be other interveners or the actual load serving entity, the utility in question, and things like that. So yes,
okay.
the short answer is yeah, we are prepared to work with the commission on you know
Okay.
on this engagement, adhering to all the communication requirements.
Okay. Thank you very much. I do have another question. I'm seeing a name, Lillian. I'm not sure. Faree. That's showing up. Is she involved with Siemens? Is she part of your group?
No.
Okay. Just curious. We're seeing somebody else on WebEx. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gohill. Would you like to go ahead and do the presentation part on the responses to the questions that y'all provided to us? On the responses you provided to us?
Yes, we have the Word document. Chris, you wanna? How should we Should we just go question by question? Should we put it up on the screen?
You can. I do know that there is some pricing information in there that you may not want to put out publicly.
Yes.
So just be careful with that. Or you can just go through the questions and kind of respond to those. It might be just as simple, and that way you don't put out anything that may need to be confidential.
All right, sounds good. So Chris, why don't you just go through the questions?
Yeah, and everyone has the questions in front of them, so I'm going to assume I don't need to read each and every one of them off. I'm just going to say our response to question 1 or question 2. Is that okay?
Well, I think I might phrase the first one as we have never appeared before the Public Service Commission, because these questions just got to us this morning. And
Okay.
while we have sent them to the commissioners, I can't guarantee that everybody has them in front of them.
Okay. No, that's helpful. I just wanted to be sure of the format. So
Thank you.
Great. So I'm just going to get right into it. In question 1, right? Have we ever appeared before Public Service Commission of South Carolina as a party or as a consultant, witness, or representative party? No, Siemens PTI, and at least no one on this team has appeared before the Public Service Commission. Have we ever been retained as a consultant for South Carolina Public Service Authority, Santee Cooper, or any of its affiliates? No, Siemens PTI has not, and nor has any of the staff working on the contract, to our knowledge. Have you or your employees, associates, contractors, or partners been retained to represent Santee Cooper or investor-owned utilities in South Carolina? No, Siemens PTI has not been retained by any public utilities in South Carolina. Do you or members of your immediate family, partners, or associate own bonds in Santee Cooper? No staff at Siemens PTI that's working on this project. any sort of family or additional affiliations with Santee Cooper. Do you have any reason to believe you can't serve as a fair or impartial or independent consultant in this docket? No, we believe our broad pool of resources that allow us to create the most independent team for the project. Do you have any ongoing business dealings with parties in this docket? No, Siemens PTI does not have any ongoing business with parties in the docket. Are we currently in any negotiations or to represent parties before the Public Service Commission or Public Utilities Commission? No, the Siemens PTI is not in any negotiations to represent any entity before the Public Service Commission of South Carolina. Do we hold any licenses, degrees, designations, or credentials that would qualify us as experts in this field? Yes, the proposed team for the engagement has the requisite credentials and expertise that the quality of the team can effectively deliver the scope outlined under the solicitation. Complete bios of the proposed members have been provided with our RFP to validate this. Are any of are you any members of utility-related trade groups or organizations? If so, what is their mission? Yes, Siemens is a global corporation and occasionally participates in utility-related trade organizations. However, the current proposed team has no significant known ties to any utility-related trade organization. Can we provide written proof of conflict checks from your firm? Yes, we would be willing to provide any written proof of conflict checks. Have you been hired as a consultant, and are you willing to abstain from any unauthorized ex parte? If we were hired, would be willing to abstain from unauthorized ex parte contact? Yes, the proposed project team will abstain from any unauthorized ex parte contact with current or future parties in this docket. Do you have any reason that you or your firm should not serve as an independent expert in this docket? No, Siemens, PTI, and team know of no reason why we would not be an independent expert. What's your schedule for project completion? We estimate the ideal time can be around 8 months, but we can accelerate this as necessary. And given sort of the specifications and scope, it would be possible to make this faster, I think. What are our estimated hours and tasks for tasks and total labor? We estimate about 418 hours in total of work hours to be used on this project. Our estimated costs, we do provide a line item breakdown in our proposal submission, but we estimate the total cost to be around $99,900. And in the questionnaire presented to you, we break that down into the hourly cost per unit of employee used. Relative to the requirements of the South Carolina Code, what information does the commission want to need to receive from your firm? Having read the code, I think it's section 5831-227C part 2 requires a bid evaluation methodology that ensures all bids are treated equally, including price and non-price evaluation criteria. Non-price criteria will at a minimum include consideration of diversity in resources and geographic location. Similarly, Part E requires the Public Service Authority to issue a public report summarizing the results of each of the competitive solicitation within 60 days of the awarded notification. With regard to these, Siemens has provided high-level methodologies in its RFP and submission, but we anticipate on providing more detailed information to the commission, provided we are retained for this consulting services. And as for Part E, granted, this was probably under the assumption we may be supporting the execution in some way, but either which way, including in our evaluation, Siemens PTI anticipates on helping prepare or actually preparing a final public report to the commission summarizing the scope of work under this solicitation. Do you or your firms contribute to any political action committees? If so, please identify them. Siemens PTI does not contribute to any political action committees, and no one on the, on the, um, team has done so. Is there anyone who currently works for your organization who worked for a public utility or Santee Cooper in the past? Siemens is we're a large multinational organization with a broad depth of subject matter experts. We can't say for certain the entire history of the organization and every employee within it hasn't worked with Santee Cooper or any other public utilities in the South Carolina jurisdiction in the past. What we can say is within the designated team, some have worked for public utilities, though none have worked for Santee Cooper or other South Carolina public, cooperative, or municipal utilities. Is there anyone who worked for your organization in the past who currently works for the public utility or Santee Cooper? Again, Siemens is a large multinational. We're uncertain of where all the employees who leave Siemens come from and where they go. Including any potential or current employees of public utilities. But what we can say is we know of no one at Santee Cooper within the team. Is there anyone associated within your organization who has an affiliation with a public utility company or with Santee Cooper? Within the designated boilerplate, the Siemens is a large multinational. Can't say for certain the entire history of every individual within the organization. But within the designated team, some have worked for public utilities in the past, but they do not have any association with Santee Cooper or any other South Carolina public utility or municipal utility. The next 5 questions or 21 through 26, were for attorneys, and we didn't find these to be applicable to Siemens as in Siemens PTI and the scope of work being asked here. So our answer to all of them is not applicable. Are there any questions up to this point before switching to the subject matter questions?
I don't hear any, so please proceed. Thank you.
Of course. Has Siemens ever consulted with a party concerning competitive procurement or renewable energy program? And y'all asked us to explain our activities within that. Siemens PTI has consulted on many competitive renewable procurement initiatives, from single resource acquisitions to multi-resource portfolio engagements. These engagements include renewable resources as part of their portfolio solicitations, and a sampling of those include the VPPA for Siemens Corporation, which looked to solicit up to 540,000 megawatt hours of non-carbon emitting resources. The state of Connecticut's Department of Energy and Environmental Protection procurement and energy storage resources, which was up to 1,000 megawatts of installed capacity for the state's targets. And then we have multiple commercial and industrial clients procuring supplies within the PJM footprint. So about 2.5 million megawatt hours in Delaware, 500,000 megawatts in Maryland, and about 10 million in Pennsylvania. I'll also say that it's still under seal, but we are helping a large WEC utility evaluate their competitive renewable resource solicitation process, and it's for over 1,000 megawatts of installed capacity. Do you have any experience with drafting data requests or discovery? The proposed Siemens team has extensive experience drafting data requests and performing discovery, including an energy procurement engagement activities, as discussed in the prior question. A small sampling of that would include the Orlando Utilities Commission IRP, Clean Power SF IRP, the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority, City of Columbia, Missouri, and Memphis Light Gas and Water. But a more exhaustive list of that is provided in our proposal and also in the questionnaire response. Given the schedule and what you know about this work, describe what we would propose to do and the team members who would be responsible for it. So we decided to structure this in context with how we do competitive renewable resource evaluations, and that's something that can be used as a gauge and temperature check to help set up y'all's competitive renewable resource procurement. So we take a 5-step process where we go with our RFP issuance and the prioritization of order offers. Then we do quantitative and qualitative risk analysis, provide a short list of recommendations with a scorecard, and then enter into final negotiations and contract awards. The RFP and RFI issuance is a matter of price discovery as well as getting a competitive number of offers in. The real key we have found with this is being sure we're specific in the targets, goals, and objectives of the procurement in terms of both what it needs to provide in terms of financial stability, as well as physical power obligations. And so we think about that as right how it's generating over the 8760 hour of the year, not just filling in a capacity sheet. Prioritizations of offers. So after the initial submission, we recommend a screening of projects for completeness and minimum eligibility requirements, as well as just sort of whittling down the list to evaluate the projects that are the best use of resources and time. From there, we go into quantitative and qualitative analysis, where we would recommend conducting more detailed quantitative and qualitative analysis for the short list of sites identified. This usually uses economic metrics such as net cash flow, overall project costs, and then other risk-based metrics such as hourly production. The results of the quantitative and qualitative list would produce sort of what we would call a balanced scorecard. So this is a weighted decision matrix, as perhaps discussed by you guys later in the questions, where we assign point values to each one of the criteria determined or for analysis, and then weight those accordingly within the balanced scorecard to create an overall sort of benefit to your portfolio. The best performing combination of those would be the short list recommendations and a final report summarizing the methodology of how these recommendations came to be and the determination behind the balanced scorecard would be submitted. And then we work on final contract negotiations. And after that, you go into final contract negotiations and awards. This is a very individual and tailored process. But at the end of the day, it is about making sure the contract can readily evolve to the risks that it will face over the course of its lifetime. It's not necessarily about prescriptively, developing a contract that goes through every possible thing that can go wrong over the life of a contract, over the life of a power purchase agreement. Rather, it's about creating processes that help both parties manage the risks and wear the risks appropriately on each side. Our proposed team, we provided both in the RFP and in our response to these questions. If there are any specific questions about our team members, I'd be happy to walk through those. I can say that we offer the full range from over 20 years of experience and emit here to very technical engineers and employees who work on deep coding and have a deep understanding of financial markets. So we do provide a full comprehensive team to each bid that we submit to. What can Santee Cooper expect to see during the administration of its competitive procurement renewable energy program? Something we've noticed and we've had to adjust the solicitation process around is that energy markets are broadly experiencing increased volatility, and currently with prices driven up by high fuel costs, labor shortages, inflation, and geopolitical instability, this has really affected renewable energy contract procurement and development. It's increased the price to reflect the increased demand for alternative options, as well as run-ups in electricity prices and factors above. Already mentioned. Moreover, developers are requiring longer lead times in order to hedge against global supply shortages, particularly true for solar. And we would expect Santee Cooper to see a lot of these conditions reflected in competitive bids and final contract negotiations, and it is causing some risk wearing and shifting industry-wide. Do you recommend any caps or limitations for the competitive procurement of renewable energy for portfolio bids and offers? Siemens, we recommend that no single developer receive the entire allotment of energy for a single project or technology. The objective of this solicitation is to set up a program that procures variable power supply across different hours of the day and geographic regions. Final projects from this should reflect this necessity and be valued on what individual projects and technologies offer to portfolio stability and economics. Have you ever participated or acted as an independent administrator for a competitive procurement of renewable energy program? Yes. Siemens PTI currently administers the competitive procurement of power and environmental attributes for the Delaware Public Service Commission, as well as for Delmarva Power and Light. Similarly, we are serving as the independent market monitor and competitive procurement for UGI on behalf of Pennsylvania Utility Commission. What types of guidelines or best practices would we suggest for a proper competitive procurement energy program? We have a couple of bullet points on this. So we recommend that the program be conduct a thorough assessment of current market conditions for energy markets broadly, but specifically for renewable energy to understand, document, and report on the current market conditions as part of the final recommendations. Provide pre-bid estimates just to set expectations on predetermined power purchase agreements, price structures, and technology groups. Disseminate the RFP information broadly to a wide interest in a high number of bids and encourage a high number of bids. Conduct comprehensive pre-bid conferences to clarify the bid process and the requirements and expectations from bidders. Maintain a web page for with the RFP information and publish any Q&A to ensure all bidder questions are answered and that the information is available to the public. It also would comply with ex parte communication expectations. Ensure all developer minimum qualifications, credit documents, and confidentiality arrangements are met prior to receiving the bid. Closely monitor any final bid day activities, such as bids received and additional documentation. Conduct a thorough evaluation process using predetermined criteria and weights. Monitor the post-bid communications with bidders to ensure it is limited and not overreaching. Determine if shortlisted bidders will be invited for negotiations prior to the bid and always stick to the predetermined rules with no changes to ensure fair and competitive bidding in the process. Effective competitive solicitations are characterized by clear objectives, transparent communication, and an independent monitoring process. Our methodology and our proposed methodology, coupled with the state of South Carolina's ex parte communication rules, should help and reinforce these core tenets and create a proper solicitation. Do you recommend to find a weighted decision matrix? Yes, this is what we would call the balanced scorecard that we kind of provide a high level example and walkthrough of in our RFP or in our proposal. We think it's the best way to create the fairest way and most standard way of evaluating projects. Do we have any best practices or standards for competitive procurement of renewable energy? Yes, we maintain the best practice standards that universally apply to any competitive procurement process. However, we recognize that each entity may have unique objectives, requirements, and rules, and as a consequence, we collaborate and work with our clients to tailor those standards to accommodate specific requirements. In general, we maintain that the competitive procurement process be transparent, follow strong ex parte communication rules, and have a well-defined set of evaluation metrics. Do you believe Santee Cooper can act independently in organizing, managing, and evaluating competitive procurement of renewable energy, or should it be done by a third party?
This answer is really just contingent on the resources available within Santee Cooper to organize, manage, run, and evaluate a competitive program. Siemens, Siemens PTI has worked in both capacities as an independent entity monitoring the process, as well as the actual administrator of the program for our client. That said, we strongly recommend independent third-party oversight to validate the analysis and to ensure the process is conducted fairly and competitively. This approach preempts any challenges to decisions by all stakeholders involved. Is there any particular model that should be used to understand the interaction with existing resources of a utility and the interaction across different portfolio bids? So our Siemens's balanced scorecard approach allows for the consideration of bids individually as well as part of an existing portfolio. We strongly recommend taking the portfolio approach as a matter of principle because it helps evaluate shortlisted projects against the existing needs of the portfolio and reveal any gaps that maybe a resource may contribute or reduce in the broader portfolio. How do you incorporate factors such as resiliency, equity, and economic development into competitive procurement of renewable energy? This again is integrated into the Siemens Balance Scorecard, which would assign weights and values for each of these factors as part of the evaluation process. The weights of these are adjusted based on the priorities and set objectives of clients and how they may impact the overall projects or portfolio of projects efficacy. Evaluation factors such as social equity and economic development can be determined based on the location of proposed projects in pre-designated economically disadvantaged regions and the potential to create jobs. The renewable resources are inherent. We would caveat that renewable resources are inherently variable and additional resources to accommodate these economic disadvantage may be required, but it doesn't necessarily mean that one project is any worse for the other. Again, it's about the balance of all of it. And I know that Martha has just come on, so I just wanted to note that for everyone, she is with the Siemens PTI team. What would be the appropriate time for the competitive procurement of renewable energy process to take place? Any time in the year is fine. It's more about the duration, and we believe that a good process can run on a 12-month timeline for a portfolio, but it can be accelerated to 8 months depending on the need and preference of stakeholders involved. We do recommend a lead time of 3 months be provided so that developers can prepare comprehensive and detailed proposals with competitive prices. One thing of note is that natural gas markets are backward dated and start to normalize in spring of 2023, indicating the preferred timing for a procurement be around when natural gas and electricity prices start to stabilize in early 2023. What role does distributed energy resources program, do DER programs play in competitive procurement of energy? And can they exist in balance? Yes, DER programs and competitive energy procurements can coexist. FERC Order 2222 provides a framework in which entities can incorporate DERs in aggregation as virtual assets and can behave intelligently on the grid. The procurement of DERs under a competitive framework is possible if those resources can be aggregated as a planned, behaving as a single unit capable of meeting the RFP criteria. So we would never encourage the exclusion of a resource option. That might be the best fit. What characteristics of generation that is encouraged under a competitive procurement of renewable energy program? Reliable operations, guaranteed like P90 hour output at a certain level of competence, minimum availability requirements, and developer equipment support, price, and expertise. With that, we are at the end of the SME section. Just going to see if there's questions here while this part is fresh on the mind, or if y'all would like me to move on to process.
Commissioners, any questions? I have a question with regard to that last response where the
Mhm.
characteristics of generation were listed. Is that in any specific order? Is that in order of priority or anything?
No, that was not in any specific order.
Okay, thank you. Please go ahead.
Chair Belzer,
Commissioner Williams?
thank you. Mr. Matos, you talked a little bit ago, and let me back up and just say thank you for doing what you're doing. We have in the past read all of those, so we all feel the pain of the specificity, and we just really appreciate your doing it and being prepared and having a document that we can read as well. But
Perfect.
you referenced a particular job that seemed very relevant, and I'm scrolling through my notes trying to find it. And you said you couldn't describe who it was for, but I wondered if you could describe more about it because it seemed particularly relevant to the work that we're looking for, which is to help us evaluate the CPRE program and results that Santee Cooper presents to us.
Yeah. So, and the reason this is still bound under confidentiality is it is still ongoing and the process has not concluded. But
Understood.
yeah. So for a WEC utility, we were retained to evaluate their competitive renewable energy solicitation. Basically, they had run through the solicitation already and set it up and then gone through it. And as they were making their final bids and recommendations, Siemens was retained as a consultant on it to evaluate the entire process and ensure that these were the results, um, that these results were fair and competitive. So different from you guys where y'all are being a little more preemptive about it. This is on the back end, so that would have been a fun set of recommendations for them had it not been done well. So what we did was we went back through their entire process, and I guess you could almost call it a discovery way, and looked at how they went about their solicitation, who they reached out to, how they reached out to them. Was there enough competitive offers into this to justify the response, the um, projects that were selected, of the projects that were shortlisted, why were those shortlisted versus others, and why they weren't shortlisted. Okay, and then looking at the balance, they had a balanced scorecard on their own. We looked at the weights of their balanced scorecard and determined if those were within industry expectations. And then we did a shadow quantification of their quantitative analysis to ensure the efficacy and the proper evaluation of it. From there, we kind of created our own balance scorecard and saw if it matched their balance scorecard, and then justified. Ultimately, we ended up agreeing with their methodology and that they had appropriately introduced the right level of competition, and based on their portfolio needs, the final resources selected were adequate.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. No further questions.
Commissioners, anything further at this point? Hearing none, please continue.
Process competency. So the selecting consultant will need to read pleadings, discovery, and pre-file testimony, listen to testimony from the hearings to inform their analysis, and perhaps testify before the commission. Please describe and discuss your team's experience in similar situations with a schedule and how will you undertake this work. Siemens has extensive experience conducting or doing reading pleadings, discovery processes, and pre-file testimony through the IRP studies we participate in. And we assist our clients in filing IRP reports with regulatory bodies. We also assist our clients in stakeholder process and engagement, sometimes, as we said, as the administrator of programs quite extensively for either IRPs or the subsequent add-on, which is the competitive solicitation, right? For all engagements, our consultants have to review testimony of interveners and participate in public hearings to gather information, if any. We also have extensive experience in identifying the flaws in flaws in it analysis and presented more frequently, and how the proposed course of action is addressing any concerns. I'd also note that in these processes, we would do any of this communication in compliance with ex parte rules, and it would be filed appropriately. Describe the approach and experience of your team's role to the commission regarding your team's ability to listen to testimony, provide testimony, um, and provide a clear written report, including an executive summary of findings. Siemens' proposed team, again, has extensive knowledge in reviewing testimony as well as providing prepared testimony. We have written an in-person testimony before the Puerto Rico Energy Bureau in support of their 2018 to 2019 IRP. We have written testimony for the Indiana Utilities Regulatory Commission in support of Indiana South in support of certain decisions on generation additions as recommended by their 2019 and 2020 IRPs. So that was basically we testified for their competitive renewable energy process, and prepared written and in-person testimony on behalf of AEP's Michigan subsidiary for similar work. Additionally, the proposed project team has extensive experience in providing written reports and verbal presentations to commission staff for the Delaware PSC and the Pennsylvania Public Utilities Commission. We provide pre-bid confidential status reports, pre-bid confidential market assessments, pre-bid public presentations of all that information. So price scrubbed, but still publicly available information. Confidential briefings at the conclusion of each auction, going through like information such as price competitiveness, as well as final public independent energy procurement reports delivered at the conclusion of the entire process. How is our team equipped to undertake the work given the commission's schedules? Siemens is known for providing the highest caliber of service when it comes to renewable energy procurement and offer evaluation support. While we're a global organization, Siemens PTI practices and serves as an independent advisory group within the larger Siemens umbrella and maintains confidentiality within the advisory organization. Our sole objective is to seek to maximize the value of our clients' interests. From this RFP, it's evident that you guys value reputed, reliable, and responsible firms, and we take our work very seriously. We offer a variety of multidisciplinary backgrounds and integrated experience with a deep bench of experts who are well versed in sustainable procurement and best ex parte communication and competition practices to call upon. Describe our experiences in responding to discovery, being deposed, being cross-examined, and testifying. Siemens PTI has extensive experience conducting IRP studies and assist our clients in the ensuing IRP stakeholder process. As I've stated, we've worked for the Puerto Rican Energy Bureau on responding to discovery, being deposed, and cross-examined for their IRP report, as well as written testimony for the Indiana Commission and for AEP and their Michigan subsidiary as well. The PSC is in the process of hiring a consultant to analyze, provide recommendations on Santee Cooper's IRP. Please discuss why it may be advantageous for the PSC to hire the same or different consultants for the competitive renewable energy process analysis. While there might be some savings in terms of modeling analysis if the same entity performs the IRP and the competitive study, we believe the two tasks are sufficiently distinct and different that the PSC can award the two projects to two separate entities. The expertise and experience and skill set required to conduct an IRP study is different than those needed to conduct a procurement and financial evaluation levels, and those who have actually done procurements and competitive negotiations to evaluate y'all's competitive process. So we have the requisite experience on both of these fronts, given our deep bench of skill sets and honestly our prior history of work. I'm I'm going to move on to the methodology and modeling section if there are no questions. Okay. Can the prospective consultant review Santee Cooper's competitive procurement of renewable energy program and render an opinion on whether it performs correctly or not? Yes, as I explained with our current work for a WEC utility, we're more than capable of achieving the asks of this RFP. How would the prospective consultant conduct analysis of Santee Cooper's competitive procurement of renewable energy programs? After the initial screening for minimum requirements, we would recommend performing a comprehensive analysis for the top 3 to 5 renewable projects. And then we would develop a market-based and asset-based or an asset performance-based forecast that would be used in screening and filtering opportunities based on economic metrics such as net cash flow, project costs, and risk metrics such as operational risks and day-to-day intermittency. The objective of this task would then be to rank the projects based on their performance under the screening factors. To perform the ranking, we would recommend the following steps: calculate a revenue forecast for the projects, prepare a high-level pro forma based T's and C's, and then based on the economic metrics defined above and the terms conditions on pro forma terms and conditions, you can rank any potential assets reflecting their potential screening factors, their performance on potential screening factors. With that, I think I am through most of the questions.
Thank you, Mr. Matos.
Mitt, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was going to add. So, if Commissioner, if you may allow me, just maybe half a minute or so. And I really appreciate your clarification at the beginning of this presentation, right? When you said that it was that the scope was limited to just evaluating Santee Cooper's proposal, right? If they have a proposed program, and we would be evaluating versus, we would not be actually executing the program or even monitoring the program on behalf of the commission. So I just wanted to say that hopefully through the descriptions, through our responses to the questions, we have demonstrated that we have lots of experience doing, long-term planning, but also procuring of energy, including renewable energy, especially this WEC utility that Chris went over. We have done exactly what the commission is looking for. So hopefully our presentation and our responses talk to that. And I do realize that this may be late, but if there is a possibility to negotiate our level of effort and our costs, we're happy to revisit those. But having said that, the costs and the level of effort and the timelines that we have provided, we are more than comfortable providing all the evaluation services within that scope and within that cost. But we would be happy to give you a better price if that was something that was an option.
Thank you, Mr. Gohill. Let me clarify a little bit here. I think I was personally, this is just this one commissioner, with some of the discussion at the beginning, I was concerned that there may be an inference that perhaps we were seeking someone to administer the program, but what we are looking for is someone to help us evaluate what Santee Cooper proposes, and there will be some oversight from the commission where some outside expertise through a consultant would be needed, but that's still advising the commission, not actually administering the program for Santee Cooper. So that was the clarification I was trying to make. If I confused the issue, I apologize. but this is the consultant for the Public Service Commission of South Carolina.
Yes, understood. Thank
Okay.
you for that clarification, Commissioner.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, questions for either Mr. Gohill or Mr. Matos?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Justin Williams.
Gentlemen, thank you for your presentation today. Understanding there may have been some confusion about the scope of work up front, does your understanding now change the number of hours necessary to complete this project, or will they stay the same?
Yeah, as I said, I think if it is just evaluating a proposal, my guess is that we can probably do this, on a faster time frame. So the number of hours would reduce, and that would also reduce the price that we quote.
All right, thank you, sir. No further questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. Commissioners?
Chair Belzer?
Commissioner Carol Lee Williams.
Thank you. Thank you again, gentlemen, for presenting. And Mr. Gohill, I understood you to offer the opportunity to revisit your level of effort and the cost. And Chair Belzer, if that's acceptable, I'd like to suggest that we receive that confidentially or however is best by the end of this week as an example of a deadline. Chair Belzer, do you have some definition you'd like to put on that?
Yes, Mr. Gohill, we will be asking for a final conflicts letter to be provided, I think it's by Friday. That needs to be submitted to Mr. Matthew Hall, and the any updates to your pricing information could be submitted at the same time. And those do need to go through the procurement office and Mr. Hall.
Yeah, I understood, Commissioner. You can do that.
I'm sorry, the date is Thursday by 3 o'clock. This coming Thursday, which is the 22nd, by 3 p.m.
Got it. Yeah.
I think that was in the original order from the commission. Okay.
Yes,
Thank
got it. Yeah, we can certainly provide the required documents and a pricing update by Thursday at 3 p.m.
And those need to go through Mr. Hall in the procurement office.
Got it. Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Williams, anything further?
Mr. Gohill, will that be organized by the steps that you'll take given the clarification that we've given you today?
Yes, we will certainly update our approach, and we will break down our level of effort by the steps that are needed to evaluate a program, not necessarily administer or monitor the program. So we'll give you an updated approach and the requisite level of effort in terms of hours, and then the associated price for it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. No further questions.
Commissioners, further questions? Mr. Gohill and Mr. Matos, I certainly appreciate, or we all appreciate your submittal and your time this morning and your presentations. They have proved very helpful. And do you have anything else for us at this time?
No, I think we both I can speak for Chris here. Both Chris and I also appreciate this opportunity and time that the commission afforded us. And I apologize, we did go over a little bit than the allocated 1 hour. But hopefully we were able to go over our qualifications, and we also really appreciate this opportunity to update our pricing. So, many thanks from both Chris and I and Siemens PTI broadly.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Chair
And
Belzer?
Commissioner Williams?
Thank you. I'm sorry for this, but I found one other note that I'd made that I wanted to ask a question. Is it too late?
No, ma'am, we haven't closed its session yet.
Okay, thank you. My question is, you listed some experience with other utilities that I'm unfamiliar with, and that's fine. But this Santee Cooper and the South Carolina Public Authority is, state owned. Would you talk a little bit about experience that you have with state-owned utilities and how that might either be relevant with past work that you've done related to reviewing CPRE programs, and just address your expertise from the perspective of this being a publicly owned utility?
Yes, I can start, and Chris, you can add your experience also. So one thing that I want to start off with is, we do realize that Santee Cooper is sort of a special, it's a state-owned entity. And we do work with all kinds of, utilities. They, be public utilities, but mostly they're municipals. So a city-owned utility is more common than a state-owned entity. And then the other class of our clients is essentially the investor-owned utilities, right? But however, even these investor-owned utilities and a lot of them are operating in the PJM, Pennsylvania, Jersey, Maryland, PJM, ISO region, and those were the ones that we put in our proposal, and we've had a lot of experience working with, especially for competitive procurement. But even these IOUs, they're heavily regulated by the state, especially the state regulatory commission. Public Utilities Commission. So in the state of Delaware, for example, and the state of Pennsylvania, they need to operate within the rules and regulations laid down by the PSC, and that's why the PSC is the one that administers, or not administers, but I mean it monitors and hires some consultants like us to oversee the entire process. So from that perspective, it's not. I don't see it as too different from the Santee Cooper situation, right? In this case, it is owned by the state, but even if it were not owned by the state, the PSC or the PUCs do have jurisdiction over those utilities. So I think it's similar. And then again, as I said, we have worked with municipals, which are mostly city owned, and so across, like in the west coast, in Texas, we have worked with a lot of municipals. Even on the East Coast, we do work with municipal utilities and help them, optimize their portfolios. Right, the decarbonization goals are across the nation. Everyone is trying to achieve those. Have different flavors, but we get involved with everyone trying to make sure that they are able to incorporate the renewables in their portfolio. Yeah, I'll stop there. Chris, you want to add anything to that?
No, I don't think I have anything. I think you covered it really well. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. I appreciate that. No further questions, truly.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. Gentlemen, I would just like to remind you that the final conflict check letter is due this Thursday, September 22nd, no later than 3 p.m. And with that, your updated pricing. You will submit those through the procurement office with Director Hall. Please be aware that by submitting them through him, we will not receive them until we receive all of them. And they will not be public at that point. So you don't have to worry about any other potential bidders seeing those. You can submit early if you want, but just get them in by 3 p.m. And if you have any questions about the schedule, you may have located the docket management system on our commission website. This is in docket 2022-104-E, and you can pull up these orders the scheduling, and the order that I'm using with regard to the dates for the, today, final conflict letter. That's order number 2022-567, dated August 18, 2022. And that you can, if you need to look at that. Any questions of us before we close this interview?
No, Commissioner, I think I'm good.
Okay. Again, thank you for your time and your work on your presentation and on your bid. We certainly appreciate your interest. And as of now, the commission is set to make a decision on September 29th That could change, but that's where we are at the moment, based on that order that I just referenced. So I hope y'all have a good day, and thank you again. And with that, we'll close this interview. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.